There was once a survey in the United States of America where ordinary citizens were asked, what is the one thing you fear the most? And on that list, death was three. Public speaking was number one. So what does that mean? That if there's a mayor and there's someone rendering a eulogy, then the Americans would prefer to be the dead person than one rendering a eulogy. Now that is when you speak to ordinary people. Imagine speaking to the speakers. So it tells you where our prefer. Look at the topic. Managing greater expectations of public speakers. So alhamdulillah, you all are public speakers. The Jummah Khutbah, the render, the other programs, that makes you a public speaker. Now, this particular topic has two parts to it. One is that it's indicating that there's greater expectations on public speakers. And the second part is how to manage those greater expectations. So the question is there greater expectations on public speakers today? And the answer is yes, there is. And there are a variety of reasons. One possible reason for that is the rise of the so-called international speakers. The world has become a global village. Instantaneously, someone delivers a speech in the United States of America. Within moments, it's popping up on social media feed. It's being sent as a link on WhatsApp. People are receiving that instantaneously. Like last night, received speech written script instantaneously, and it was completely circulated with WhatsApp. So that is the world we are. Everything's happening and everyone's connected. So as a result, your musalli, your member of your Jamaat, someone that's studying in your hostel, someone that you are accustomed to. But now he's no longer only exposed to you as a speaker. He has a wide variety. And people have different talents. And suddenly he's exposed on YouTube and other platforms to these people who get very impressed with the American accent and the British accent. So now it's a new flavor. Kullu Jadid Laziz. And suddenly you are Girka Murki Dar Haram. So there's this new exposure that he has. And you sitting and having lunch with him, and you just given a good Jummah talk to your best of your ability, and he's telling you that I listened to such and such speaker. You know, what he's saying really resonates with me. Or I just find this in the speaker to be so inspirational. Now you're sitting there, your eyes will start saying, no, don't listen to those speakers. Your Aqidah will be spoiled. And he will think, no, I can't speak like them. So his best thing is to put them down. Or he may then start saying, no, you know, they have lots of resources, they've done lots of training, and they have, you know, a whole team behind them doing those research, that's why they can deliver. So it's a defeatist mentality that you're giving them, you're putting yourself down, and you're raising them. So there is this, you know, greater exposure, and now the average Maulana who's giving a talk is being outshined. So that is one challenge. Another challenge that we have is that we live in an Instagram, TikTok world, where in the old days they said the average concentration span of a person is 8 minutes. It's not even less. Sometimes they say that even 30 seconds people are watching video clips that long. So the concentration span of the musallis are gone less of the Jama'ah people listening. So that is another challenge that has come along. And then we find that there seems to be this diminishing attitude towards the Jummah Khutbah. People coming, strolling at their own time, as though to say that I know that Maulana is not going to say anything that's going to rouse me today. What he says, I've been listening to him for 20 years, I already know his train of thought. What he's saying, I can predict it already. That is the attitude, and if there's something spicy or juicy, I'll get a podcast later. Or the recording will be shared on the groups, I'll listen to it then, so I won't miss out on anything. So there's this diminishing attitude towards the Jummah itself and to the public speaker. And we find that we live in a world now where people are vocal, people will say what they want, people will, you know, raise their concerns. So this is the greater expectation that is there on public speakers these days, and it's a reality. Now, the question is, what do we do? How do we respond to this? There's two possible ways. You get a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is, this is who I am, I've been doing this for so many years. You take it or you leave it. I got sincerity in my heart. Our talks, we give it from our heart. So you just pacify yourself and you comfortable in the zone where you are and you leave it to that. Or the growth mindset is to say that, you know what, life is a journey of education. Min al-mahdi ila al-lahdi. And I want to continuously look at ways in which I can grow and improve myself. And that any opportunity that I can have to learn, then I will learn. And wherever it is, al-hikmatu dhalatul mu'min. From whoever and wherever I will learn. And public speaking is indeed an art. It can be learned, it can be mastered. In Hayat al-Sahaba, there is a narration of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu when he was appointed as Khalifa. And he mentioned that, you know, when in his first address, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he then said that the first step is always difficult. And then he said, وَإِنْ أَعِشْ سَآتِيكُمْ الْخُطْبَةِ, that if I live longer, I will bring to you prepared lectures. I was not a public speaker, as per my nature. And there's expectation that I should deliver lectures. But in the future, I will bring you lectures ala wajhiha, as prepared lectures. And from that we learn that public speaking is something that can be learned, it can be refined, it can be mastered. And there are certain things that you could do in this regard. In the modern contemporary context, you find that Warren Buffett, who is the 6th wealthiest person in the world, and he had such a aversion to public speaking that in his class in school and university, he didn't have the courage to even stand up and say his name. And he says that he would choose those particular subjects where there would be no possibility of him having to interact with an audience. That was his criteria. Then eventually at the age of 21, he went into stockbrokering. And that then he realized that there is a need for public speaking. He did need to progress in every aspect and financially. And eventually he enrolled for a Dale Carnegie course. There were 30 other people that were in similar boat. And now we have it. $96 billion that is his net. So, take up public speaking. That is the potential. Not in this world, in the afterlife. Much, much more than that. So we need to have that mindset that I am an eternal student. In every aspect of my life, I'm looking for opportunity for growth. And if we look at the minbar, the power of the minbar, this is the position of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we stand there, we stand as a naib, as a khalifa, as a warathatul anbiya. And that gives us immense power. It gives us immense responsibility. If we look at this minbar that we have, you know, within our own community, within our own society, there are groupings who crave it so much. The biggest gripe at the most is that they have the minbar and they want that minbar at all costs. So this is immense power that we have at our disposal. And the fact is that, you know, there are many people who, even though they come into the Jummah khutbah, very, almost as though they're saying that through their body language they're disinterested. And they sit there just for 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. But that is the only dose of spirituality that they have for the meeting. So even in those moments, what we motivate them, the impact that we have can be really, really profound. And there's immense power to this because of the background to the minbar. In one of the books of public speaking, that the author has mentioned that Dr. Zaki al-Badawi from the United Kingdom, in 1977 he delivered a pre-Jummah khutbah lecture in the London Central Masjid. And in that talk, he spoke about the importance of Muslim schools. There was no Muslim schools in the United Kingdom at that time. And Yusuf Islam, former Cat Stevens, musician, revert to Islam, was in that lecture. And he was roused, and he was, you know, really moved by the talk of Dr. Zaki al-Badawi. And as a result, after that, he wanted to do something. and he established the first Muslim school which was funded and supported by the government in the United Kingdom, and now there are more than 100 Muslim schools in the United Kingdom. I stand here today before you as a result of public speaking. How is that? In 1960 or the early 1960s, I don't know the exact date, the former rector of Darul Uloom Deoband, had visited South Africa, the senior civil, and he visited that time Port Elizabeth, now Tabeta, and he delivered a number of talks. And he delivered a talk in one of the masjids, and my Muslim father Rahimahullah attended one of the talks. And he was about 13 or 14, and listening to that talk created with him the desire to go and study. And he was then the first alim from Port Elizabeth to board the SS Karanja, travel to Deoband, then to Karachi, and then to Jalalabad. The power of public speaking. And obviously, Tayyib Sahib Rahimahullah had that presence, spirituality, all of that. But the outward means was the talks that he delivered. And that shows us the power that we can bring via our public speaking. Now, how do we take this forward? We've spoken about the expectations that are there and the challenges that we have. The question is that, what can we do in real terms? The one thing that we need to do is, there are lots of content available in terms of books, in terms of audios. You can find abundance of content on the internet. And one of the things we can do is analyze and look at what is it that makes these speakers that have become so popular. What is it that they have that makes them unique? Why are people gravitating towards them? Now when we say analyze, we don't say become a copycat. Because this is also become a tendency. When people, find a particular person who's become popular, and then they want to emulate. And there's a problem with that, because some speakers, maybe his voice is the attraction, and your voice is not your attraction. But you're speaking on the same style, and it just doesn't sound right. Or for some speakers, the real catch to that person is his Arabic poetry. Couplets upon couplets. But when you take to quote Arabic couplets, your Arabs are all missing. So it's not for you. So don't copy someone else's. Look at what they're doing, and then you implement that in your own way. Look at your own strengths and then build on that. And another thing that we find is that, people sort of box themselves up in one style. So we know a speaker who became famous because of his humor. Now, because he became famous of his humor, people expect that every time he speaks, they would be rolling with laughter on the ground. And it limits him. Or the other speakers who became famous because of their conspiracy theories, and now every time they sort of box themselves up that they're going to come up with conspiracy theories, which I don't think they need themselves. But just to keep their audience entertained, they're going to continuously every week come up with a new conspiracy theory. It becomes more and more ridiculous. That even, anyone with sound mind will think that this man, does he really believe this? Jinnats at 12 o'clock in the night shot. You're choking people and that's why they're dying because of COVID. So, because of boxing yourself up or making your name on one particular genre, then that is what happens. So rather you have a broad-based appeal, and in that particular manner, you'll be able to appeal to a wider audience. Otherwise, you take a particular niche, there will be people who will become your pakka murid, everything you say, it will be 20%. You have a broad-based approach, then you appeal to your entire society, even if it's 80%. So that is what is required. And when I look at, for myself, when I look at the public speakers that have become popular in different parts of the world, if I have to sum it up in one particular word, what is it that makes them unique? It is the tone in which they talk. Tone is everything. And that is where we tend to lose it. Because our tone sometimes comes silly, sometimes it's not in tune, it doesn't endear people, pull people closer to them. So tone is all about your attitude when you're speaking, the pitch, the frequency, the rate, all of that is part of tone. And when we look at how do we regulate, how do we bring our tone, and how do we get it to that? Essentially, what is needed from us is to create a dialogue while we're speaking. That is what's needed. And if we can master the tone, and if this is one thing that you take from my presentation, after reflect on, I think there will be a profound, I'm guaranteeing you, there will be a profound way that we talk. If you change your tone while you're speaking. So, there's an incident. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala writes that one day Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came into the home and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to her, I know when you are angry with me, then you're happy with me. And she then said that, how do you know that it is love? And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then said to her that, I know when you're angry, then you say, La Rabbi Ibrahim. And when you're happy, you say, La Rabbi Muhammad. And Aisha radiallahu ta'ala said, yes, you're right, Nabi Allah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was fine. Now, that is just narrating the incident. But if you do it in a different way, and this is where the dialogue comes in, you say that, and many times what we need to do is we need to bring people in, and that is through storytelling. So, you instead of saying, I was walking and I sat down, you need to transport the person to that moment. Take him, transport him to that. I am walking and I see before myself. So now you bring in the person, you bring in that entire episode alive. So now when narrating that same incident, you say to the person, if you narrate it in a particular manner, that Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was in the home and he then said to her that إني لأعرف إذا كنت عني راضية وإذا كنت علي غضبان. I know when you are happy with me and when you are angry with me. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam puts a challenge to Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu ta'ala. So she's obviously astounded. And she says, مِنْ أَيْنَ تَعْرِفُ ذَلِكَ? Oh Nabi Allah, how do you know that? And then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam responds and presents his proof and says, إِذَا كُنْتِ عَنِّي رَاضِيَةً قُلْتِ لَا وَرَبِّ مُحَمَّدٍ, by the oath of Muhammad. وَإِذَا كُنْتِ عَلَيَّ غَضْبَانٍ, and when you are angry with me, then you say, لَا وَرَبِّ إِبْرَاهِيمٍ. Realizing that she spoke out, she says, أَجَلْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, you are correct. وَلَا أَهْجُرُ إِلَّا إِسْمَكَ, but I only leave your name, your life, your heart. Love is deeply entrenched in my heart. So by bringing the person into the present and creating the dialogue, the conversation, what you do is you then bring your topic alive. Otherwise, we just continue going, and that is the bayan mode. So essentially, when we look at, these Western speakers, what is it that makes them stand out? It is the tone. It's the dialogue. So a simple thing that I said in the beginning, I'll just give you an example. I said that people are very impressed with the Western speakers. Now that is it. We continue. But what you need to do is you need to bring that point alive. So how do you bring that point alive? You bring it by projecting dialogue on your audience. So how do you do that? You say, people are saying, I just can relate to such and such. I don't want to take speakers' names because then I'll be in trouble. So I find this person so inspirational. So instead of saying just people are impressed by this and this, you are bringing that each point alive by a projected dialogue on your audience. And by doing that, it brings emotion into your talk. So as you're rendering it, there's so much emotion in that. So that is essentially. And then how you can bring that is through storytelling. Now storytelling is very, very powerful. And there's been books written on this. In fact, there's a book by Akash Saria, and he's written a book where he studied 200 of the TED Talks. Those that have attained more than 200 million or 10 million views each. And after analyzing all of that, he's come to the conclusion. But what is it that brings, makes TED Talks so unique? It is the stories that are in those talks. And they've given the directive that when in giving a story, at least aim for about 3 stories in your presentation. And that is what will bring the talk alive. And also, we spoke about the diminishing attention span. So what you need to do to captivate True storytelling is adding humor into your speech. Like there was Maulana was giving a talk, and while he was giving a talk, there were some people in the audience where an elderly person had fallen asleep. There was a young man next to him. So the Maulana stopped and he told the young man that wake up and answer next to you. The young man told the Maulana, so the point is that through moments of humor, what happens is after the humor, there's a new invigoration. There's a greater attentiveness after that moment. And people are more relaxed, people are more connected with the speaker, and you can get your point across in that particular manner. So the humor is not just about adding things in to make people laugh, but it's taking them on a detour. But from your content that you are to present, to uncover, and that is in those dialogues that we spoke in your examples, that is where you uncover the humor. To conclude, my aim is to be the first speaker in my class. Our basic message is that be 1% better. That's all you need to do. Be 1% better every time you talk. And the reason is that if you can improve just one thing, and through a variety of ways, listening to others, listening to your own recordings, reading up continuously, just understand that it's work in progress. And if you're continuously working on yourself, reading a book, listening to someone, trying to draw some points, you will inevitably improve by 1%. And 1%, if you're giving 50 Jumas a year, 30% improvement, that will be a phenomenal degree of improvement. And to see that, the fact is, Nabi Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he made dua for Sayyidina Harun, and he gave the reason why he wanted him to be a Nabi. وَأَخِي هَارُونُ وَأَفْصَحُ مِنِّي لِسَانًا, because of his eloquence. But he didn't stop, okay, so he will take care of the presentation. He also wanted improvement, and that's why he said, وَحْلُ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. Remove the knots from my tongue so people can understand my speech. So dua is an important part, and continuously working on our presentation. Allah give us the ability to continuously grow and to render our best possible efforts for the benefit of the Ummah.